Welcome to another episode of Silver Scream Queens. This week we are covering Tourist Trap from 1979. A group of young friends stranded at a secluded roadside museum are stalked by the owner of the place, who has the power to control his collection of mannequins. There is sexual assault in this film, so this is your content warning.
All right, witches, strap in, because if you haven't put this together yet, this movie is about to get spoiled. So get ready.
My name is Emily. Hi. I was named after Emily Dickinson. I listened to the Oh Hello's Soldier Poet King, which is that TikTok song that's like, there will come a soldier that carries a mighty sword. The second song was A Change Is Gonna Come by Sam Cooke, because I've been listening to that on repeat.
That's
all
a
2020.
Yes, bitch.
If I were a book, my byline, not my byline, but like my subtitle, what would that be? So what's your life catchphrase, essentially? So my life catchphrase would be, yes, I fell down, but it's okay. But it wouldn't be about like psychological success. It would be about like how clumsy I am.
Hello, I'm Blaine. My two songs are I Was a Teenage Werewolf by The Cramps, Belladonna by Stevie Nicks.
Yes.
My book's byline would be, but wait, it gets worse.
Oh my god, that is perfect for you, but I hate it and I love you simultaneously.
I love you very much. What about you, Steph?
Hello, my name is Stephanie. The last two songs I listened to were Time Warp, featuring Little Nell, Patricia Quinn, and Richard O'Brien from the Rocky Horror Picture Show soundtrack. And the second was I Got 5 on It by Luniz. Because it's always
Yes!
I love, nothing makes me feel more capable of just going to the grocery store than listening to I Got 5 on It in my Hyundai Elantra. And if I had a byline, it would be, what? That's it.
Perfect.
Or squirrel. Literally, I have such a hard-on for Blaine's photo that is just staring at me the whole time that I talk. It's just amazing.
I'm fucking glad.
The Skype just got me.
You now feel how horny I feel for you all the time.
I think I took that with you. My Skype photo is the photo you took, I think, of me at the brewery we went to.
Yeah, that was when you took our anniversary pics. Holy shit, I didn't realize that until now.
I want you guys to take all of my pictures.
Yeah, same.
As long as you're okay with them all being of your butt, I'm in.
That's totally fine. I'm gonna pull a Jodi Arias and I'm gonna show you my actual asshole.
I
Yay.
would hope. I mean, that's just common courtesy. At that
Wait, I wanna pause just real quick. What is the Jodi Arias of it all?
Okay, so the Jodi Arias thing is I just listened to a full podcast about it.
I love it when you do that because then I get to hear all the good parts.
Yep.
So literally, this woman was kind of like
I know who Jodi Arias is, but I didn't understand the butthole thing.
The butthole thing. Okay, so the butthole part, everything. She killed this guy. He was Mormon. The butthole part is in court. When she was murdering this man, there was a camera going off that she set up because they like to take sexy pictures of each other when they banged. So she had the camera set up on a timer. And she took one last couple pictures of the guy and then did not know that the camera was still going off when she bent over naked to murder him, having her taint and beehole perfectly on camera. So when she goes on the
if you're
court,
gonna do it,
this is her on the stand. Is this or is this not your asshole? That's what happened. And that's the only way someone's got to go down. You got to get them right in the brown eye.
Yeah.
What did she say? Was she like, that sure is?
I feel
or was she like, what does it look like, my fucking butthole? Like, that
you want to see my butthole right now?
You guys know,
smash them up.
I just imagined a couple things. One, that the attorney that questions her is only Jim Carrey doing asshole talking. Would you like the banaka?
I am disturbed by how often Jim Carrey's talking butt comes up in our conversations.
I love it. And also too, think about the idea that they did a lineup and it was just assholes. And they're like, who is it? And it's this one.
That they took Prince.
Yes.
What'd you say? They took Prince?
I like to think they took Prince.
Yes.
Now, if you can just blink it for us right on the paper, that'd be great.
I just spit my champagne at my own self. This is the best. This is the best way to intro this episode. Honestly, I
My
don't think
intro and
there's a
put that in its place.
I don't think there's a better way to intro this than after our intro than talking about a fucking butthole that got someone convicted of murder.
There's
You know, honestly, I will say, if you had to be on the stand and like be like, I don't know whose asshole that is, I feel like that's really the only thing you could fight. You know,
I
you
think
can
I
fight
could
that.
confidently identify you, Stephanie, and I don't think I could confidently identify myself.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
that-
no,
and
I'm fully aware of what Stephanie's asshole looks like.
I'm imagining that she then went to lengths to disguise her asshole, like bleaching it, giving it a wig, you know, like
merkin?
giving it
She
sunglasses.
bought a merkin.
She put a merkin, sunglasses on it. She tattooed it. Like it's all kinds of shit going on.
So
in her
wait, do
bubble.
you have any details on what her taint situation was? Like, did she
Tell us
wax?
about
Because
I
I would have
don't-
waxed, and then
I
you could have
don't-
just grown it out to like
I-
disguise.
I feel like, you know, when you just look, Emily knows this too well, when you look at someone and then you research them and then you just know everything, but also you just get a
Yeah,
vibe.
much.
And when I look at Jodi Arias's photo, I just don't feel like she's the one going full empty. I feel like she's got hair in her ass crack.
Really?
I
Because
do.
I watched a
feel like-
Lifetime movie, and the woman who portrayed her made her seem like she was a
Oh.
wax and bleach kind of
She
lady.
is a more of a read a book creepily in like a fucking wise pharmacy line, you know?
Like
here's
those
the
crappy
predicament
romantic
I'm in.
paperbacks.
Yeah, like exactly. Like she's in the pharmacy aisle, like, oh my god, this is so good. Like that's her.
Like quietly rubbing one out in the
Yeah, like
medicine.
next to the depends. If it doesn't shit, you must have quit. Oh my god, I'm sorry. And speaking of shit, fuck this.
Let's talk about this fucking movie.
This movie was obviously originally released in 1979. It was directed by David Schmoller, which I like that because it sounds like he's a
Yes.
schmo. He did Puppet Master and Crawl Space, and it stars
Oh.
Chuck Connors, who was in Maniac Killer, The Horror at 37,000 Feet, and Robin Sherwood of The Love Butcher, and Jocelyn Jones, who was, I believe, a Playboy model. And the director drew inspiration from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Twilight Zone episode featuring the mannequins. It was actually based on his senior film project at film school. And he was very startled, as am I, to know that this film received a PG rating,
Yeah.
despite its subject matter, which is
Yeah, that
shocking and
happens.
indicative of the time in which it was released, that this was not shocking. And he said in an interview with TerrorTrap.com that he thinks the film would have been more commercially successful had it received an R rating. I just think it would have been more commercially successful had it never been made.
Had it been
Take
just a
that
bit better,
$800,000.
maybe.
Yeah, no.
Well, I love like he basically was like, remember that senior project that I got a B on? Like,
Mhm.
what if? What if?
What if I
Listen,
did that worse and longer?
To open Tourist Trap, we have this awful music. Let's talk about that awful music and why the fuck this is there.
It was
It
a
is like-
sixth of the budget.
It's not
this
horror
music.
movie music.
it's like
No.
it's like an opening for both a Bert and Ernie meets the Hardy Boys meets the fucking, like, what are those fucking dumb bitches, the guys that used to poke each other in the eyes?
Oh, the
They, like,
Stooges.
The
Three
Stooges. It's like
Oh.
it's like a stooge like bullshit, like beep boop.
Yeah, I was like, this is definitely like Pink Panther music, and it's
Yeah,
all
or-
over the place because there are moments where it is like kind of mysterious and ominous, and then it goes right back to like fucking Sesame Street,
Oh,
and it is
shit.
so off-putting. I'm like,
Well,
what?
like-
What emotions am I supposed to feel right now?
Just horror.
It was right. The music was a sixth of the budget, which is fucking crazy. And then
Right.
also, it was the same guy that did Carrie's.
Man,
So they were just like, do Carrie, but worse.
honestly, I think it's just like they almost just went to an electronic keyboard and were like, well, let's see what happens. Beep.
Yeah, hey, Cat, do you want to
Hey.
get up here and fuck around? Let's see what the
Right.
cat does. Well, and that's Emily just said that the intro is so long. Like, and it's not like it's using the intro as exposition or anything like that to set up the scene or anything. No, it's just a black screen with white text. And I'm like, what are we supposed to be doing right now? Is this supposed to, like, at first I was like, okay, maybe it's supposed to put us off guard and make us think like, oh, maybe you're in the wrong movie. Because, some movies have done that. But no, it's just stupidity.
Yes.
All the way down.
Yes.
Yeah.
So once that finally ends, we see Woody in a pair of shorts, a pink button down, a big old bucket hat, and he's rolling a tire down the dirt road. He stops to drink out of a canteen and just dumps it over his face and then looks disappointed when it runs out. And then he sees a sign for gas ahead. And back at the car that he, blew a tire at, his girlfriend has set up a makeshift tent so that she can just lounge underneath it. And I'm like, this is me. Like, oh, you need to leave? Cool. I'm doing nothing.
We would all be that girl.
I'm actually fine here. You have fun with your whole gas station thing.
Yes. I love that none of these people would survive in like Naked and Afraid.
No.
Although they are often naked and afraid.
They are often naked and afraid, but not, ironically, not intentionally.
This woman who is doing absolutely the least, her name is Eileen. And while she is chilling, another car comes up and containing two other women and a dude. And these two other women are Molly and Becky. And the dude's name is Jerry. We don't actually find that out as audience members until like 40 minutes into the movie.
Oh,
but that's
bananas. They don't give a fuck who these people are.
No. Nope.
But so this other car rolls up and they're like, what happened? And it turns out they all know each other. They were all caravanning off on a vacation. And then Eileen divulges that, a tire blew because for some reason Woody was like, hey, a hole, and decided to drive in it, popped a tire. He had a spare, but the spare, of course, was flat. So he is rolling off into the distance to see what happens. They're all friends. We cut to Woody. Woody approaches.
Just gross people. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's such a ragtag group of shit.
No, this is a hot fucking mess train. That's what this is.
Yeah.
So we cut to Woody is approaching the gas station, but nobody's in there. So like a normal person would, he just wanders around and makes himself at home.
Right.
And he enters a room, and meanwhile he's like hearing grunting and groaning and laughing and stuff. And he sees what looks like a woman sleeping. He just sees like a tuft of black hair. And he approaches, because if that's what you do as a person who just right? Like,
sir,
so
this is not your fucking house. What are you doing?
We're not off to a good start with this jabroni.
No, honestly. He's like, I am a white man wearing a bucket hat. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Do you see how pink my fucking shirt is?
This is
imagine how
Crew.
pink my penis is. That's how you know I'm a man.
This is J fucking Crew.
So yeah, he approaches it, and it turns out it is a dummy. But here's the thing, I get caught up in this verbiage because we're made to think that this is a dummy, but it looks more like a mannequin. And I wish the word mannequin was used more instead of dummy. But that's neither here nor there. They use the word dummies throughout.
Oh, I always
they
thought
use them interchangeably.
Yeah.
Nobody ask Emily any further questions.
No,
we talked about that.
No, we know.
She's gonna have flashbacks and sing.
Terrible.
Fucking fuck. The woman turns out to be a mannequin. But it's a moving mannequin, so like it turned around and like looked at him and was like, ah. And so the moment she does that, the door that he entered shuts. Yeah. And so he's stuck in there. And then the room starts moving and things start flying and he can't get out.
Fun fact.
Please.
The opening sequence with the items flying out of the cabinet was filmed with the cabinet nailed to the ceiling and the crew on top of the ceiling flinging items straight down. When it is shown in the film, it gives the illusion that items are flying straight out, but it's still fucking horrible.
And it's
I
just
mean-
too long. Like they
Oh.
clearly spent money on it, so they're like, let's just include the whole thing. Let's not cut a second.
Everything about this movie, it should have been like a mini-sode, and it was a fucking 45 minutes of them yeeting fucking inanimate objects at this bitch while there's this horrible. It's just the worst.
Well, and we talk about this a lot. Like, a lot of the movies we watch could have been an hour, but for some reason, they needed to drag it out. So what I think happened with this movie is they were shooting for an hour and a half, but when they edited it down and took out all the unnecessary shit, it was like 45 minutes. So they were like, yeah, leave it all in. Just leave it all. Shit is popping out, and the mannequins or the dummies in the room, which somehow this room is full of them, they start like faking him out, like jumping at him, and like their mouths are falling open and shit. And so he tries to bust down the door with a crowbar, and when he puts his arm through to try and like reach around for the doorknob, his arm is grabbed and he's stuck. So that cabinet in the back opens up and it starts hurling shit at him, and it's barely missing him. And so a metal bar on the floor rams into his back and he dies silently and with the most dramatic face. Like, what? First of all, how is it silent? Secondly, what's with the face?
The drama is,
Yeah.
it's also a matter of like the whole time you're watching this, you are shaken. And I will say it is kind of, it's crazy because you don't know yet the nonsense that's to come. But yeah, it's a good, they get you into it within, look, you're in 5 minutes. I mean, the opening credits were 74 minutes long, but then you're in it and they're like, boom, here's the fucking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I why did they edit out the scream is my question. I wanted to scream.
Like, I think that the editor of this movie was doing something with his taint, probably before and after and during.
There's always a taint.
Yeah, it's a taint.
Always a taint.
A tale of two taints.
As we fade out of the scene, you hear a man's voice grumbling, and we assume by the noises, he's dragging Woody's body away. And just a fun fact about this opening scene, Stephen King fucking loves this movie.
Oh my god, I saw that. Crazy.
Yeah. And so in his autobiography, Danse Macabre, he praises the effectiveness of this movie, but especially this opening scene. And at first, this movie, obviously, just by us watching it, we know it didn't do so well in the box office, and it was an indie movie that nobody had really heard of. But once he mentioned it in his autobiography, it gained more of a cult following. And so... fuck Stephen King for doing this to us.
Fuck it. You know what, Stephen? You had a bad day that day, I think.
No, well, here's the thing. It is very campy and cheesy, and that is right up Stephen King's alley. He is such a campy son of a
That
bitch.
is true. He is a cheese ball.
But yeah, I mean, he did a lot of coke.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he was.
Maybe he's not making the
fucked
best
up.
choices.
I mean, I think he saw that in a haze and was like, dude, mannequins. Also, I'm not gonna lie, throughout this film, I have thought of the variety of very lonely men that would like mannequins that could do that with their mouths.
Oh
saying.
yeah, that's why those very realistic sex dolls exist.
Mm-hmm.
After we hear Woody's body being dragged away, we cut to the gang that he left behind. Eileen has joined the crew, and they pass a sign that reads, Slausen's Lost Oasis. Also, say that 5 times fucking fast. Slausen's Lost Oasis.
Lost Oasis.
You did a great job.
I'm not
That
that
was impressive.
But the sign says they are 4 miles away. So Eileen says in the back, she says, oh yeah, these fucking tourist traps, they're all alike. They rope you in, and then once you get there, it's nothing but cheap trinkets. So they said the movie title, so I'm doing that Leo meme where he's like pointing.
Yes.
That's it.
So they come across Woody's abandoned tire and roll right past it and they roll right past a sign that says closed to the public. Like, I'm sorry, which one of you was on sign duty and just decided, hey, that's a tire that was left by our friend without our friend? Like, so let's just
Dan's friend.
That's all we need to know.
They're all on their way to a Montessori where they're learning how to read.
I also just want to know what the fuck is up with those goddamn signs. Who put that second sign up? To keep out.
Well,
because like I feel like he wants people to come. So
I
like,
feel like-
who for who? Because immediately he's like, we used to make a lot of money. Now people go on the highway. But I mean, like obviously we'll get there. But like,
yeah,
he
didn't
clearly
anybody
wants
put on Yelp
people.
that like, hey, why is that sign there?
Right? Like,
Yeah.
why does it say don't come in? And he's like, oh, why is business so bad? And he's like, God damn it!
I feel like he knows.
Be forewarned sign is still out.
He's like, oh man, I forgot to take the warning, all ye who enter, down.
Yeah.
I apologize.
The car ends up stalling, and one of the headlights goes out, and the guy driving it, Jerry, he's like, I don't know how to do cars, and I'm just gonna do this and fix this. So Eileen wanders off into the woods a bit, and she yells back that she's found what looks like paradise. It's a waterfall in a watering hole, and they all run and decide to go swimming, and then they get naked, and we see that Jerry is back with the car and tries to start it, but there's no luck.
You know, I just want to say about skinny dipping, just a couple things. If
Please,
anybody...
That's amazing. Do you know anything about skinny dipping?
No, I just want to say that
She said with interest.
My major fear about skinny dipping has always been in the movie Anaconda. When
Yes.
fucking guy gets in. Now, he was not naked, but he was in water. And he had a thing in his throat that, like, killed him. And it was like, they had to fucking... And then think about all these fucking bugs that swim up in your fucking pussy and in your asshole and in your penis hole. I mean, you don't know what's in that water.
All the holes.
You at least gotta wear something.
Yeah.
Unless it's
It's
like
all
your
honey.
personal tub.
A general question. Do they
Yeah.
ever say how old they're supposed to be?
Nope.
Because you can't tell if they're supposed to be like 30 or if they're supposed to be 30-year-olds playing teenagers because it's the 70s.
I am almost
Yes.
glad they didn't try to fuck with that because it already, like, these guys look like they're 74 years old and the girls, they're maybe 19 to 30. So there's just like problems all the way through. And I love that this is the hits of a 70s, a movie in like the late 70s. Nudity in the first 10-15 minutes. And just like duty bro schmuckholes putting themselves in bad situations.
But not real nudity because
No. Originally, it was written in the script that there would be nudity, but the director, he apparently was just too shy to actually ask the women how they felt about it in their first interview or, audition, which translates to me as being like he wants to spring it on them at the last minute and make them feel pressured to do it.
Right.
But he ended up asking them right before they did the watering hole scene, and they were all like, absolutely not.
And you know what I like about that is this is not a Zombieverse situation where we're full titties. I like that I have that fun fact too, and I was just like, that is something where it's almost like, did he just like think they were gonna be like, oh shit, like yeah, we got okay, but they're like, fuck you, brah.
Yeah, and that's where I
Also,
just
like-
want to be like, good for you.
Yeah.
As an actress, you negotiate that into their pay. So he's essentially
Yeah.
just asking for free work. Because I'm
Right.
sure that he framed it like, "Oh, are you being a prude?" And they're like, "No, that's a service and we would have to charge you for it." Like
Also-
But sex
yeah.
work is not real work. Fuck you.
Also,
Right.
that would have not for nothing. It's also like that doesn't add anything in any way to this. It would
Right.
added nothing to this movie to have
Like,
that.
I mean, it
message,
rarely
see what they're
does.
doing.
We find after the girls go swimming that someone is watching them. And so, oh my God, I'm so fucking excited to talk about this. A man comes out of the woods. He is wearing loafers. He is wearing bell-bottom overalls. And he has a shotgun. And he's wearing a bucket hat with a flannel underneath. And I am like, honey.
Wow,
Tell
that is
me.
fashion. Turn to the left, fashion. Turn to
Yes.
the right.
Also, middle school me would have done anything, would have killed anyone for flared bell bottoms or flared overalls, because honestly, he approaches the girls and asks if they're having a good time, which is immediately a red flag. And he says he used to charge 75 cents for people to swim in that water hole, but then the government built the highway, and now he doesn't get visitors, and does not mention the sign whatsoever, as Emily pointed out.
Right.
So he asks the blonde, what's your name? And this is Molly, we learn now that we're already a billion years into the movie.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and we learn that Slausen, who is the man who owns Slausen's lost Hoe-Asis, is really angry about his business failing. And then they ask if he's seen Woody, and he said he didn't. And he says, I should warn you, you're gonna want to leave before dark. And they ask, why is that? He goes, well, that water hole is filled with water moccasins at night. So that's immediately like,
wow.
You really thought skinny dipping was the best option.
Right, and I'll tell you, that's why I was right, because it's a moccasin, and it's not a shoe, it's a snake or something.
Well, Stephanie, there are many times where nudity, when you're concerned, you know so much more about nudity, and you're right every time.
I have a fun fact here about Slausen. Slausen is Chuck Connors, who is also known from the cult favorite and one of my favorite movies, Soylent Green. And there is a surprise retro performance from a well-known model actress named Tanya Roberts. She was in Charlie's Angels, the OG.
So Jerry now has started wandering through the woods, and by the time he finds them, all the girls are fully dressed, and they're laughing about the incident. Because, when you are fairly certain you're either about to be murdered or sexually assaulted, your instinct is to just try and laugh it off. And again, the music to this is just wild, because it's not horror movie music. So they get back to the car, and Slausen is there waiting for them, and he offers them a ride and takes them back to the Slausen's lost Hoe-Asis. And as Eileen mentions, like, the entire place is full of junk and so many mannequins.
Guys, can I just say that sounds like a great name for a snowball stand?
Oh, for sure.
That's going to be the remake.
What flavor do you want? Blood, guts, ears, mannequin holes, or taint?
Can you do them all?
Yeah. Around the world? Yeah.
One of everything. You got it.
Pretzel day. I like pretzel day. So yeah, it's the museum is just junk, and he says basically it's like he's really bad at getting rid of things, and since his wife died, it's all he has to remember her by. And then, like, we never get an explanation as to why there is a refrigerator that is specifically for Dr. Peppers. But he hands those out to everybody. And, like, it's funny because people only have Dr. Peppers when they're offered by Slausen. So it's like only, like, he must have a key or something to that refrigerator. And I thought at this point, because he was the one passing them out, and then there comes a point again where he passes them out. I'm like, okay, there must be something in the Dr. Peppers. Like, what?
Right.
But then it really is just like somehow there was an endorsement for Dr. Pepper. There are mannequins everywhere, and Eileen mentions that the dummies are really lifelike, and I'm like, honey, red flag.
Leave.
Yes. Then Slausen shows them a Confederate dummy, which is another glaring red flag, and this dummy shoots a gun, which is like, ma'am. Stranger danger. So turns out Slausen lives in this museum, even though there is a house just beside it. He says the house next door is occupied by Davy Crockett, of course. So then Slausen and Jerry go out to fix the car. He says, you're more than welcome to use the phone, but it doesn't work. And don't go outside and wander around. because there's coyotes. And so Eileen, of course, goes outside and looks around, and there's clearly a night filter on. I hate movies where it is very obviously shot in the day and very obviously using a night filter. Like, why are there shadows everywhere, man? Why?
You know,
why is everything blue?
I feel like I don't want to go anywhere where they're like, just don't wander around. Also, don't go in the water. Also, just maybe leave. I don't know. I don't think you should be here.
And is kind of driven to the house where Slausen said Davy Crockett lives. And in the house, there are more dummies. I don't understand how each time a new person enters this fucking house, there isn't more said about the amount of dummies in this fucking house.
Nobody's saying anything.
Literally lining the walls. There's no place to sit because every fucking seat is taken by a dummy. It's just obnoxious.
Do not talk about the Republican Party like that. I'm sorry. That's not different comment.
Like, why are they in the house and in the museum? Because, like, if they're everywhere in the museum, you're like, okay, that's their shtick, sure. But then once you get to the house, you're like, wait, what the fuck?
Dude, did you see that museum? There's no room for them there.
No.
This man is killing so many people. Spoiler alert.
What's happening?
And so she sees there's a grandma and grandpa in some sort of lounge area, and the grandma is rocking in her chair.
No, she's not.
Yeah, and she hears someone whispering her name, and she thinks it's Woody. More dummies appear.
It's always like this. It's like,
yes. So all the dummies' eyes are following her, and so then we see there's someone behind her with a dummy face on, and what? Plaster face or plastic face, I guess is what we'll call him. So this plastic face sits her in a chair telepathically. We'll get into that. And a scarf wraps around her neck and basically strangles her. Let's talk about the telekinesis or telekinesis in this shit.
Oh my god.
What?
This was a late add-on to the script. This was like, they had the movie, they had it cast, they had everything, and they were like, wait a minute, this is just the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What if we made him a super villain? And someone was like, I fucking guess.
The face on that guy does look very, very similar to Texas Chainsaw.
Yes.
Oh, his name on set was Plasterface. It was a nod to Leatherface.
Yeah. And I think I will say, look, the fact that they added the telekinesis into the mix, it does spice it up because it's weird. Like, there's some backstory here that is not even remotely explained. But it gets so lost in all these mannequin parts everywhere. So many. It's like a shuttered Macy's in that fucking joint.
This movie is based on 3 other movies, and we'll talk about them at the end. It doesn't do any of them well.
And so we cut back to the museum, and Becky and Molly are obsessed with this ethereal dummy dressed in like all white and very Farrah Fawcett hair. And so like they touch her face, and Molly is like, oh, it's so realistic.
Oh god.
And so yeah, they touch this dummy's face, and they're like, wow, that feels like human flesh. And so we cut back to, and so Slausen comes back into the museum and gives the girls more Dr. Pepper. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Nobody's pissed one time. Nobody's pissed once.
No. Turns out Jerry took the car back to town. And Slausen says it somehow comes up that like Becky and Jerry are dating, and then Slausen's like, all right, well, I feel like wives should take care of their husbands, and I was like, I feel like you should eat glass.
Yep. I feel like you should just literally go in the water moccasins, let them swim up your dick hole.
Yeah, just walk into the ocean. So this is the time we learned that his wife wanted to really expand on Slausen's lost oasis and build a hotel. And then he notices that Eileen is missing and goes to look for her. And we see him go into the house, and he starts calling for Davy. who is his brother. And then he finds Eileen with a dummy mask on her face.
He finds the mannequinized Eileen corpse, which, by the way, she still has like the scarf on that was like telekinesis strangled her, which I thought was odd. So he like is somehow surprised to find this dead mannequinized body, which like look around you, dude. I bet this happens a lot.
There's
This
like
is not
20
the
other
first
dead
time.
bodies.
Connect the dots, sir.
Right. And he was also the one who was like, don't go outside. I think we probably know why. And he's like still surprised that it ended this way. So anyway, back at the house, Molly and Becky decide to be fucking snoops and like look through his photo album, which feels very intimate for a person that's like taken you in. And
Right.
the girls find a photo of his dead wife who happens to look exactly like the creepy ass flesh mannequin that they were poking earlier.
Oh, fuck.
And the girls like somehow are immediately like, that's not weird. That's fine. Like he Slausen like fucking first of all deserves a gold medal for his ability to like sneak up on fucking people.
Jesus.
And he's like, it's definitely not weird that I have a life-size shrine to my dead wife and that your friend is missing. Let me just grab this gun real quick. And they're just like, yeah, okay. Sure. That
Well,
all
a part of
checks
me
out.
wants right. Well, and a part of me wants to think, okay, well, if you're a woman or anybody in a situation where, you know, you really don't have a choice but to be there and you really don't have a safe way out, your mind automatically tries to rationalize everything. And so,
Right.
like, I'm trying to put myself in that position, but I know there's nothing there.
I feel like this thing of women are like, it's a man, I'm just gonna trust him.
They're way too fucking chill, maybe is my
Also,
problem.
in this whole movie, these women, in the whole movie, what really bothers me is these women are weak. They make them so fucking weak. The whole movie, they can't do shit. They can't run. They can't fucking. They fucking sashay away. And
Oh, there's
it's
no
not-
autonomy.
He grabs a gun and then one of the girls is like, do you need a gun? He's like, fuck it, I guess not, which is weird to say the least.
Yeah.
So, and then he's like also just left a gun, like a loaded gun in front of these people he doesn't know. The whole thing's very odd. And he's like, anyway, you guys stay still. I'm gonna go look for your friend, which is awkward because like he knows that she's a mannequin now. And like, but how do you bring that up? You're not like, oh, I know where she is. She's just mostly a mannequin. Anyway, I'm gonna go find your other friend. He's got to pretend like he's looking for her. So Becky's like, yeah, fuck that. I'm not staying here. I'm out. And I honestly think that the most unrealistic part of this entire movie is that somehow Becky does not once have to like hike up her tube top and do that
Right.
shimmy thing that you have to
No.
do.
Because, like,
She's
it's,
like
oh,
running
I don't,
around.
And her tits are
even
fucking
when I
amazing.
didn't have boobs when I was like 9, I still had to pull up a tube top, you
You
know?
do the
Her-
wiggle.
Her titties are just fantastic.
I
They
just don't
defy
I said
gravity.
it like
understand
that,
them.
but amazing.
Did they tape it onto her?
They
Is that what
probably
happened?
taped. They probably did
Oh
a
my
taper.
God. Ugh, Jesus. But anyway, so
Yeah.
Molly is like weirdly into Slausen. She's like creepily kind of wants to fuck him. So she's like, no,
Yeah.
let's stay. You get that vibe where she's just
Yeah.
into him.
Yeah.
She's the one to get whatever. So, and he was like, what's your name? And she's like, no one's ever asked me that before. It's stupid and I hate her. So anyway, she's like, let's stay and fuck this old guy. And Becky's like, no. And she's like, fine, but I'm going to be a bitch about it the whole time. So they go up to the house and they hear like Eileen. I don't know if they think that they hear her laughing or fucking. And they.
That's what I said, fucking.
Right. I was like, I can't. Because they were like, is that Eileen's laugh? And I was like, I don't think that's a laugh, ma'am. And also,
Sounds like a goddamn ghost.
right. And also, like, you should know your friend's laugh. You
Yeah.
should be better at that.
I
But
know
anyway.
when you guys laugh, come, cry, all of the above.
All of it. All of it. That's what sisterhood is.
Yeah.
So they conclude very quickly that not only that she found Woody in this random ass house, but now she's fucking him in it. And Becky's like, sweet, let's go in. And Molly's like, that's actually not my scene. So she goes to leave. And I also this is the time my notes that I wrote. What fucking Anne of Green Gables Little Woman fan art is Molly's wardrobe?
Oh
I don't get
my God. It is like some Marilyn Monroe meets fucking wearing a dress and heels, Get the hell out of here.
Well, and it's
So I was very confused by this wardrobe because,
Yes.
like, or by Molly's character in general, because when we're introduced to her, she is the modestly dressed person who's like, we can't swim, we don't have bathing suits. And then when Slausen comes along, she's like, oh my God, suck my tits. And it's
Right,
just like,
kick that
what
one
is
out.
happening?
I'll be honest, I would have rather have watched that movie than this movie. Him
Yeah.
sucking on her
Yes.
tits, I would 100% have watched that over this. Also,
Better.
I just want to discuss, this woman has a forehead you could put a fucking charcuterie board on. I'm sorry.
I couldn't look at her forehead because I was distracted by the ribbon holding her hat on.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
How?
Why?
I know it's the 70s, but there has been, you could measure your head and get an appropriate sized hat. I think that technology existed. I'm pretty sure. And then she's like, you know what sounds great? Nightgowns from the 1830s. That's what I'm going to wear.
Yes.
I just really want to attract a vampire looking for a virgin.
That's all. Maybe
Blaine
that's,
is
maybe that's
telling
the
the
whole
reality,
thing.
though.
She thinks he's a vamp. She's like, fuck, look at how I'm dressed. I'm so ready for this.
I knew by
Like,
those loafers with
like-
the bell-bottom overalls that this was the one for me.
The moment you lumbered. They're doing great. And Becky is so confident that Eileen and Woody are the only people in this random house that she's like walking around being like, woo, and like pointing a flash. Like, you don't know you're alone, ma'am. And she finds a room of more mannequins and she like has this moment where she rips a sheet off a bed and you think it's going to be her friend, like dead.
Right.
And it's just another mannequin. You're like, fuck. It was a letdown. I was very upset by it. And then Becky's like, whatever, I'm gonna keep looking. That doesn't put me off, which it should. And she's pursued by Plasterface. And like,
Well, the entire
Plasterface-
time she's like having a full-on conversation with Woody and Eileen, and it's like, ma'am, do you
Right.
really think you're talking to them right now? Like, I'm
Right.
sorry, if I were a friend like playing a prank on another friend, I wouldn't just like, I don't know, let them talk to me without being like, all right, shut up or something like that. Like,
No.
I don't know. None of this seems realistic.
Well, and so this is where another question of mine in terms of like what the fuck is happening comes up. So presumably the killer is stalking her, but it's Eileen. It's like the Eileen mannequin that's
Right.
stalking her because it has the scarf, and then she gets to the attic. So is he using telekinesis to like the Eileen mannequin, or is that him wearing the Eileen face?
The problem is that none of this, this is going to be the hardest movie for specifically Emily because the logic is zero. There is no thing in this movie that makes me feel like they give a fuck about
I just don't understand
continuity.
who was following her.
I feel like they, I don't know either, honestly. Like, I feel like they want you to be confused by all the bodies and the mannequins. And I feel like that's a
Right.
natural reaction to like the confused, like, what the fuck? Because especially like you guys said before, sometimes the mannequins are like turning into people and turning out of people, and you're like, huh,
Right.
what? Who? What? There's like
Well,
hands in a bucket of mannequin hands, and only one's a real hand, and it's jerking
It's a
off a
full
dick.
bucket.
That's also a mannequin dick. No, it's not.
What is shaken bats? I don't know what to tell you, except that I am a part of a Facebook group called Wholesome Goth Buy Sell Trade that is constantly, like, flooded with young goth spooky sellers looking to sell their wares. And so they're constantly advertising items from their shops and from their sites that they would like to promote and get a little more attention for. And this week, I came across a post from Milk Bunny Studio. That's Milk Bunny, as in rabbit, Studio, all one word, on Etsy. And it's a burgeoning shop that is selling a really cute item that I just bought because it was so adorable. It is a bat pillow that consists of yellow, orange, white, and purple bats in the shape of a bat. And it is so cute. I had to have it for my new office. And I'm so excited. So please, please head over to Milk Bunny Studio on Etsy to check out this adorable bat pillow on Etsy again, Milk Bunny Studio. And if you find the time, please request to join a wholesome goth buy sell trade on Facebook. You'll find a lot of small businesses there who are looking for people like you to support them. Okay? Love you. Bye-bye.
He can see what the mannequins see, I think. I think that's a part of it because they have the eyes follow.
Ooh.
So,
Yeah,
like,
that
I don't know
that
if
could
he's,
be.
like, animating them to follow around his, like,
Oh.
victims or if it's
Interesting.
him wearing the faces because it switches from him as the killer to just the Eileen dummy really quickly.
The movie I switched to was called Slausen's Lost Hoe-Asis.
So she's still looking for her friends, thinking she's gonna find them. She goes to the attic, which is full of more fucking mannequins, and then turn around. The killer, I think, wearing Eileen's face / body, possibly outfit at least, like turns around and is just like, "Ooh," essentially. And then there's just like 100 doors in this attic for some reason, and they all individually are locked via telekinesis. And then the mannequins do like a really aggressive cuddle puddle on her while she's trying to escape. And they kind of pin her to the ground. So she's now probably realizing that her friends are not in the attic and probably not fucking in the house. Becky gets a hand from a friend and beats her way to freedom with a mannequin arm. So she like pistol whips, but with an arm, her way out of this like gaggle of mannequins. And then what again is supposed to be intimidating, I believe, all the other mannequins kind of gently rock and moan
Yeah,
for
they're
a
like,
minute.
"Ah,
Oh my god.
ah, ah."
It's like a fucking someone coming for the first time and they didn't realize. You know what it is? It's every cum shot from American Pie.
Yes, that's what it is.
Every cum shot from American Pie.
But
When
yeah,
there was-
so there's pies everywhere.
There's
It's a
fucking
travesty.
apples and cherries everywhere. What's your favorite pie, guys?
I only like cream-based pies.
Yes, of course you do.
So like peanut
I
butter.
like strawberry pie.
Ooh,
Ooh,
okay.
and I love
fair.
peanut butter pie.
We finally get our soft orgy in this movie.
Oh god.
They tackle Becky, and then we pan in a basement over an assortment of body parts, and it's unclear like what's human, what's mannequin, and they show just like a whole new person tied up to the table, Frankenstein monster style. So she's tied to the table, and the killer carries like an unconscious Becky down the stairs, and the killer's like, "I brought you a visitor. You're so pretty. Why don't you like me?" As he touches his face, and she cries, "No, please, not again," implying that there has been sexual abuse. Feels like every incel who's like, "Girls don't want a nice guy. I'm a nice guy." And then like in the same tweet are like, "Why won't bitches fuck me?"
Whiny fucking bitch. Everybody in this movie is a goddamn whiner. Nobody's taking action.
There is Tina is tied to a table.
She is, but that's fair. That's a fair assessment.
She's having a bad day, we could
Just
say.
upset. Tina doesn't deserve any of this shit.
Oh, she's the true MVP of this movie. So Becky like wakes up in the basement and it's like very Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes in here.
Yes.
And she finds surprise Jerry, who like you have assumed is dead this whole time since he like mysteriously drove away in the truck. So that's a nice surprise.
Mhm.
And then you meet Tina and she's explaining that she was like stopping for gas on the highway and that this guy's fucking crazy and they're all going to die and that Slausen's brother is the killer. They were like he was the one who allegedly had made all the mannequins and he's crazy and he's the murderer because he had like said that he died or something. So he looks like the Phantom of the Opera because he's wearing a mask and he's got a cloak on and he's keeping women and they can't see his face and it's a thing. So anyway, comes down the stairs and he's like, "We're gonna have a party. How do I look? How do I look?" Which to be fair is also how I enter a room. and he starts serving his guests drinks, which, like, by guests I mean hostages, and he, like, they're clearly wincing, so you don't know what's in it. You don't know if it's like poison. And then he goes to offer Tina one on the table, and she's like, no. So he drinks it himself. So then you're like, okay, I guess he was really legitimately like offering them liquor, which is weird.
Right?
Okay, I will say though, in response to you saying it's very Texas Chainsaw, this is a lot cleaner than Texas Chainsaw.
Yes.
Like everything is a bit more like IKEA. In a way, like it's a little bit.
A lot of this is IKEA.
Just slightly more organized. There's no meatballs, but probably somewhere.
Know that there could be a meatball.
There could honestly. Oh man, meatballs are so good right now.
Dude, I just want to hide meatballs everywhere for when like I'm just wandering around. I'm like, look at this meatball. It's good to eat.
And then he goes, anyway, the party's over, and he smashes the glass, which, by the way, that party was like 13 seconds long, approximately.
This is the worst fucking bar closing I've ever seen.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
This is the worst last call. Last call. Fuck everything.
Oh my God, I really wish he would have flicked the lights a little bit.
Oh,
Just been like, alrighty.
Don't stop believing. I'm out.
You don't have to go home because you're chained up here.
Journey. The background.
Oh God. Oh yeah, Journey. That would be it. So then he pulls another incel move, and he's like, Tina, you're so pretty. It's a shame you have to die. And then he like binds her face in a belt and then nails the belt to the table that she's on, and then starts going like full Martha Stewart on her face. And he's like, it feels good, doesn't it? And you get like Buffalo Bill vibes. And I found out that this was actually like pizza dough.
Yeah, that was. I had a fun fact. The plaster was actually
wow.
I'm sorry.
And it definitely doesn't have the consistency of such.
No. And also, this is what we in the biz would call a bad facial.
We in the biz.
I don't know that I'm not in any biz, but it is like I didn't pay for this fucking pizza class on my face.
It's weirdly sticky. Not at all what plaster Paris looks like, which is also like affordable. Like they could have gotten some and then used a dummy because they clearly had plenty.
I'm just confused as to why they felt the need to use dough when they could have used almost any other type of white clunky
plaster. The thing that they were trying to emulate, you could get it at Michael's or anywhere.
They should have used like fucking marzipan. At least she could have had a good time.
Ooh, that would have been fun. Yeah.
Yeah, marzipan.
I'm just thinking about food. But anyway, he explains that as it dries, it gets really hot, burning the skin, which is actually like if you've ever gotten a cast, when they put your cast on, it cures, it gets really hot. And he like announces what he's doing as he's coating her face in what I assumed was a thick layer of Idaho Spud instant mashed potatoes. And like is very
I love instant mashed potatoes.
Oh fuck.
I always put a little vinegar on them. It's very good. A little balsamic vinegar.
Honey.
Obviously, Tina's dead now. Says as she's dying, now you're one of us, isn't she? And then I think he says the word great, but I couldn't make it out and I couldn't find a version with subtitles. So I feel like it's an important moment and I just couldn't hear him, but you're one of us, isn't she? I think the word great. And then Jerry somehow gets free and like yeets himself at the killer, but is clearly no match as like he hoists him into the air single-handedly like by his neck. And then we cut to Molly, who has decided that it's cool to wear his dead wife's shrine's clothing.
I didn't understand this. I was like, is this Stockholm Syndrome? Is this what it is? Like, man.
Everything about the way that the characters morph, like the men have almost the only thing I like is the men die almost instantly.
It's rough. But he like, so she's like playing fucking dress up with the shrine, and then we get back to Murder Dungeon USA, and Eric, who I call him, is now shit talking his brother, saying that he didn't know about Tina and that he's gonna kill his brother, and that his brother makes him wear the mask because he's literally too fucking sexy, and his dead wife will probably ditch him for him. He probably didn't get the memo that she's dead now, but sorry. And then mid monologue, he like drops a key, which Jerry tries to get, and then it's retrieved via telekinesis, and they're just like blown away. Which I'm like, at this point, your threshold for weird should be way higher.
If you were weirded out by, you just watched a fucking girl death rattle under some goddamn pizza bullies. You better.
Yeah, at this point, I'm just like, where's Chris Angel? You know.
You've seen mannequins come to life, and you're like, that key moved. Now we're gonna
Wow.
freak
Oh my
out.
God. What? I'd be more shocked. They're more shocked by the amount of Dr. Pepper this guy has access to.
Honestly, peak crazy. Peak crazy. So then he's like, I definitely have powers, surprise, but sometimes it's spooky because I can't control it. And you're like, that's exactly what I want to hear you say. And then we cut to Molly, who's just like living her fucking cottagecore dreams, going for a
Damn it.
stroll with like her wedges still. She's still wearing those wedges.
Women
Why?
in
Bitch.
their shoes in movies, like, I don't understand because a lot of costume designers, they're women. So like
Yeah.
how can they rationalize like, yeah, this character, like knowing that they're gonna be roughing it? Like, because even if like when these characters were planning to go to the beach, you can't walk in sand in wedges. Like
Dude.
you should know this.
No,
No.
look, there's only one place to wear heels, in my opinion. It's when you're sitting at a goddamn desk or you're fucking sitting at a dinner. You're just
Yeah.
sitting.
Yes.
Or sitting on someone's face.
You're just, yeah, or that.
Yes.
Yes, that would be preferred, obviously.
So anyway, the killer, now donning a new face, is holding a mannequin head, and then like a ventriloquist screams at Molly in
God.
the middle
Oh
of
my
the
God.
woods, and like she's not into it
Okay,
right
can
away, and he seems surprised.
the ventriloquist scream and the way that the doll face then screams is
Ugh,
fucking, it's almost so creepy, it's fucking hilarious.
it's
It
funny.
is
It's funny.
fucking hysterical. It's so weird. It opens its mouth like fucking Alien versus Predator, like down the chin, like the chin opens and
Right.
the bottom lip spreads, and
Ugh,
it's
so good.
so weird.
I love it.
That's what I don't get. Like there's so much confusion. Pardon me,
It's
I
so
burped.
Perfect. I
Around
love it.
these dummies, mannequins, and like what is the definition of
Right.
dummy and what is the definition of mannequin? Is he really just taking any inanimate um like person shaped thing and making it, or putting it over a human? Like I need to know. I need, just like Emily
Right.
needs a little more explanation as to the bounds of the telekinesis, I need to know what this serial killer's parameters are for his
Right.
kills.
Yeah.
I just need to know why there's so much harp music in this scene.
It's
Like,
necessary. It's
there's
so
so much
necessary.
they just got a harp halfway through the movie. They're like, oh shit, let's use this.
It really sets him up for like yeeting a mannequin head at her. Like that harp really
Yes.
calms you down. And then he's like, and then like it's no music would have been way better, I think. Actually, that would have been way better because it would build suspense. But they're
Yes.
like, nah,
It would be so much creepier.
do it. But no. They were like, I think you're right, Stephanie. I think someone went to a yard sale, found a harp for
They're
like
like,
$11, and they were like, fuck the score, all harps here on out.
there's a
Done.
harp that has like 3 strings left. Let's fucking go.
Let's play those 3 until the movie's over, repetitively, in no particular order.
Yes.
Oh my god.
The
So
musician was everyone's children in this whole movie.
each took a string. So anyway, he does yeet this mannequin head at her. And then to her surprise, it like animates and like turns and yells at her again. And like still not into it, swing and a miss. She decides to hide in a shallow creek full of snakes.
Bitch.
But like looks like
I
she's telling the
don't.
truth, which is great. But then for some reason she decides to like flee up a hill. And then speaking of Slausen, guess who pulls up to rescue her in a white truck? She's like, there's this horrible man who's trying to kill me. And he's like, what do you look like though? And he's like, oh, it definitely looks like the person that you're about to tell me is your brother. And he's like, yep, that's my brother. He may have murdered some people, but like he usually doesn't. So I don't think we're going to worry about it right now.
I would love just to meet someone that's like, my brother's a murderer, but like, I'm just gonna go, like, I don't want to hurt him, so, don't worry about it. Oh, cool.
Well, and
Why
I
do you
love
think
how
that?
like I love how he's like, yeah, but he doesn't murder often. Meanwhile, the house and museum are littered with receipts that say otherwise.
So cool. Stuffed
Um,
to the gills with dead.
He is getting all his subscriptions to Bodies Monthly.
my brother, he's great, totally stand-up dude, slides Tina's body under a couch. He's so good, so under control.
Yes.
He's like, it's not his fault. He is the way that he is. And he's like, we're going to find him personally. Let's not involve the police. And Slausen like weirdly makes it about how like cool he is. And he's like, let's go back to the house and listen to some tunes. It'll be great. And he claims that like to a moth to a flame, his brother will just like come running to the sound of a radio in the night.
What is he, a fucking homing pigeon?
Yeah. Or just like, it's just like yelling last call at a bar. That should have been this whole movie. Just last call, and that one drunk idiot stumbles up. That's
Honestly,
the whole
cowbell.
I wish I could have just been more drunk for this movie. So that's a good note to all listeners.
Oh, God. Get wasted. And then he's like, but just to be safe, hey, random teenage girl I just met, hold on to this loaded gun for just like a minute. I'm going to go call a serial killer by the sound of song, okay? And she's like, okay. Got it. She's a little freaked out, but like, guess what? It works. The killer materializes on stage right.
Can I just say though, she pisses me off so bad because she's like, I don't know how to use a gun, and it's like, girl, you better get some balls right now.
Squeeze the trigger, bitch. Squeeze. So luckily, she does figure it out. Shoots him, not amused because surprise, surprise, the gun has been filled with blanks. And the gun doesn't do shit, and the mask is broken to reveal that Slausen himself is the killer. Surprisingly, Molly's even more freaked out and then flees into the woods.
She did shoot the man, aka the cast of Dallas, with that wig. Because he says, dumb, dumb, you're dead, dumb, dumb, you're dead. I was still confused. I was like, does he have like multiple personalities? Is this like the movie Identity? Like, what is going on? She has shot him. It has not worked. She hits him with the gun, and he's certainly fine. And she then continues to sashay into the woods, and she goes into the water again. And then somehow he's already behind her and drowns her. And you're like, at this point, you're like, look, I want someone to kill me because I'm still watching this fucking movie. So you are like, whatever. I don't even care. And he probably, at this point, I'm like, look, he's going to paper mache her ass too. So turn her into one of those volcanoes your kid takes to fucking third grade. So back to the other kids. We're with fucking Titties McGee and Jerry. And they're like, oh my God, a piece of a plate. Yes. Let's try to cut through a chain with a piece of plate. Yes, because math. Okay, so apparently, Mr. Slausen, we go back, and he is having dinner with his wife's mannequin parts and feeding her, and her head falls off, and he's like, oh, bummer, I have to fix that. So Blondie, aka Molly, is not dead. She is in a room, and she's tied to a bed, and he shows her a couple mannequins, like, oh, look at this saucy bitch right here. And he says, this part fucks me up, and this is the trigger warning in addition to everything else in this whole fucking movie. But he says, you treat me right and I'll be good to you. And you are very confused by this because you're like, what, are you gonna rape her unless like are you gonna like you want her to let you do something to her so that you don't turn her into a fucking mannequin? Like, what's the deal?
It's terrifying.
It's awful. So she asks him to let her go, and he's like, nah. And so he does not obviously let her go. Back to the chain gang, and we got plate worked. Oh my God, that is so possible. It's not possible, but okay, it worked. So Jerry fucking pecked through that steel chain with a piece of plate. Try that in your next abduction. Jerry and Becky, big titties, get out, and they hide among the dolls. As they're trying to leave, they go through a fucking hallway. This scene is truly terrifying. They get through a hallway, and it's filled with mannequins. It is like a whole bunch of department stores came together to try and create a family out of all their mannequins. And they are hiding among the dolls while we see that Slausen is wearing a wig and a mannequin face and clutching actual toy dolls while surrounded by a bunch of other fucking mannequins. And it's just really creepy. And he hears the noise in the hallway as you would expect, and then he sees them, and he doesn't see them. He goes out and looks for them, but they're hiding among the mannequins. So he's like, "Oh, you're just another mannequin." So as Jerry makes his way down and leaves Becky, by the way, he's like, "You fuck you, bitch. Got this. Your tits are too perfect. I can't help you." And
You hear that
and
often?
so he's like, "Look, you you got enough luck in your life. I can't with this." So then he tries to escape out in the first floor, and no luck. Here's fucking Slausen. Jerry yeets himself out of the house and runs, leaving Becky inside.
Through a
And
window. Like,
through
wow.
fucking window.
Committed.
And our Stevie Nicks impersonator, aka Mr. Slausen, comes out, and the power walking chase is back on, is reprised. Nobody runs in this movie. Everybody power walks.
No.
It's an 80s. It's a fucking 80s movie. All these chicks are so helpless. It's very frustrating. Becky has been like, she was tied to a fucking wall, and then she plated it and all these things, and now she's like, I cannot possibly run any further. Slausen then comes out, and she does not know all this information about the fact that Slausen is just the guy. So he comes out because he has this like, "Oh, take the wig off. Here we go. Here I am." And she like doesn't realize the clothes are just like exactly the same, like everything's the same. And he's like, "Oh my God, poor fucking sexy fucking snack." So he takes her back to the actual tourist trap, and he says, "I'm going to get my doctoring kit," which is probably just a bunch of newspapers and glue, because we know about him. And it's like a fucking pre-K class. So then Woody's body.
Picturing him come out with like an old-timey apothecary bag and just like pulls out a bunch of Elmer's glue.
Yes.
He's like, "Don't worry.
Can I
babe."
offer you a sniff in this trying time?
Fucking Woody's body is there in the tourist trap sitting, and you see it because it's got the bucket hat. And the mannequins are beginning to kind of like dance and shoot their guns. At this point, fucking Becky is up and about, and she just kind of like, look, you would assume, imagine, listener, close your eyes. Imagine you are in a creepy fucking place. It smells like assholes and fucking Dr. Pepper. And it is disgusting.
Yeah,
And then
that's
all of a
accurate.
sudden, all the fucking mannequins in there come to life and begin to shoot at you. Do you casually skip like Stewart from
Did we
Mad
mention
TV
there's a bunch of
away?
mannequins?
Do you casually skip away from these mannequins? No. So this bitch is casually like, "Ah!" And that one scene, I had to rewind it and watch her fake skip away from these mannequins. She like shrieks like she's annoyed. She's like, "Ah!" And then we have a Native American mannequin who throws an axe at her fucking head, and she dies next to a stuffed armadillo in everybody's ideal way to pass.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I fuck this shit. Everything is it's like the night at the museum from hell. So the lady, we go back to Molly, our charcuterie forehead chick. And so Molly is now being fed by a woman. I mean, this is a woman. This is a person.
Right.
And fun fact, the mannequin, it is a mannequin, but again, it's a person. It is actually the director, David Schmoller's wife at the time. And so she is like giving her water. And for a second, you're like, at this point, I'm curious what you guys thought, because at this point I was like, do these people that he turned have some kind of autonomy still where they can be
Right.
who they were, and they can maybe like rise up against, like in
Like a
some
Get Out
way.
scenario.
Yeah, so that is kind of where I was at this point.
So here's my theory. I mean, at this point, I hadn't yet put it together, but later on towards the end is where I really form my opinion. So what I think is, at this point, I think we see progressively throughout the film to this point, she is really getting into the idea she's really getting used to the idea of Slausen and being her caretaker and everything like that. So at this point, she is really the switch has flipped, and she is really struggling with Stockholm syndrome, and she's also really struggling with her own mental health at this point. So like when she wakes up and she sees what looks like a human there, she is like, none of that actually happened. She's not actually being taken care of by this mannequin. It just imagines it.
Huh. That's interesting.
So
That's an interesting thought.
which also like comes into play later when you see things and you're like, what is happening?
He comes back up, and in the most hated line in this movie, he calls her little girl, like nonstop.
Ooh,
and he
gross.
says, "Hey, wake up, little girl." And he says, "Everybody's waiting." And he picks her up, and she's in a long, flowy dress. This bitch keeps going from runway to runway this whole goddamn movie. and then we are in an attic again, and there's just this weird weird singing. And fucking Slausen looks like he's sitting in a rocking chair looking sort of sleepy. And this dumb bitch, he like has the one eye open kind of shit going on. And I just did it right now, even though no one can see me. And she's like trying to crawl away, and he is clearly awake. And she's
watching
like,
her actively.
No, and she's just like, he's not going to notice. It's like you staring at me and me being like, I'm just going to shit right on the floor right here. And the way the mannequin's masks open up, the jaws folding open at the chin, is that to me, honestly, that really was creepy to me. It reminds me
of cheesy.
It is.
I thought it was funny.
I thought it was creepy. I did think it was super creepy though. But he then it's like, okay, honey, like, you know I'm fucking awake. Like, are you this stupid? Like, what's going on? He picks her up and takes her to his quote-unquote brother's room. And he said, I always gave him anything he wanted. And he finally has this moment where I guess he's being real with someone. And he basically says, I want to take care of you. You're not like the others. There is something special about you. You remind me of my wife. And he basically puts the wife's death mask on her and begins to kiss the mask. And I mean, at this point, I'm mostly just terrified about the potential assault continuing.
Happen. Yeah.
And
well, that is happening. He's assaulting her.
And he says, tell me you love me. Like, oh man, my skin was crawling at this point. And he was like, tell me you love me. And I'm like, part of me is like, bitch, just say it so he doesn't kill you. Like, I just want you to die. So she eventually does say it. And then he kind of like gets a crazy look in his eyes for like a while.
And I could not figure out what the fuck this was that he's experiencing.
I feel like he was like, I need to take a break for a minute. I might sneeze. And then he never did
it like 4 times, and I'm still no clearer on it.
It was really nonsense. And then he says, he basically discloses that he ended up murdering his wife and brother because they were fucking behind his back. And part of me is like, I feel like you are deranged, sir, and none of that happened.
Yes,
and
like not an excuse.
And it's like, are we supposed to feel sorry for him? Okay, and this part, God damn it, Alabama in this movie. He said I had a legal right to that, you know? And I'm like, I must have missed that in the Declaration of Independence, sir. That you can kill your wife and your brother. And after that, he said that he made a figure of his wife. And then he basically is like, you're going to have to die, girl. And who comes a knocking but fucking Jerry? And Jerry comes and knocking, and it's really weird because nobody is like doing anything. And nobody is upset. Nobody's like, what the fuck? What do I do? And Jerry ends up punching a goddamn hole through the door. She goes over to Jerry. She is like, oh, Jerry, thank God you're here. And then fucking Slausen is like, oh, you think he's here to save you, bitch? This guy's already a fucking J. Crew fucking mannequin.
What the fuck is this?
His head, his arm. I actually do like the practical effects here because the way that they had him pull the guy's arm out while he has the body of a human person.
Oh, so good.
That's beautiful.
And they had him turn his head off and like throw it away. And I did really like that. That was actually like the only thing I liked of this whole movie. And then there are all these hands. There's like, then they go through the room, and the room is just filled with all kinds of fucking mannequins and all kinds of shit and buckets of hands. And there's clearly just like a human hand with a hole at the bottom that has put its way through the mannequin hand box. It's like Air Bud paws. It's just, and so
Always
he
comes back to Air Bud.
it's always Air Bud. And so he is like everything. They're dancing. He picks up the mannequin of his wife.
Who fucking knows, dude?
Just a
At this
random
point,
mannequin. And he is dancing with this random fucking mannequin. And she,
think it is his wife. I think
intermittently, the mannequin comes to life. And he's spinning it like to dance with it. And intermittently, you see a person, and then a mannequin, and then a person, and then a mannequin. And then in the slowest motion murder I've ever witnessed in my life, Molly grabs the axe off the ground because it glistens off her forehead, and she fucking hits him in the neck in the slowest. You couldn't even get the velocity on that thing to cut paper, and she gets it through his neck. And then there's a weird, like, all these mannequins are coming at her as she's doing it, a weird clown, which came out of fucking nowhere. And all the dolls are screaming as he's dying. It's like my mom at an urban axis. And he is fucking deceased. And then in the best acting of this whole movie, Molly shrieks. And we end this fucking movie on my spirit animal, aka a goddamn turkey vulture. And Molly in a fucking topless Jeep with all her mannequin friends smiling.
Dude.
And the end, what has happened to my life?
I mean, you lost an hour and a half of it.
I mean, look, what are we giving this fucking mannequin tits? I don't know. What are we doing here?
Dented mannequin tits.
Dented mannequin
Yeah, there were
tits.
a lot of
Okay.
dented mannequin titties.
I like
They couldn't
it.
even get undented mannequin titties.
I'm literally giving this a 2.5 because
Solid.
the incel, the oddness, the complete lack of any kind of viable, like, there's plot, but it doesn't come together at any point to make me feel like there's a cohesive thing happening, that I get anything happening. I appreciate how weird it is. The music was terrible. It's almost like if there were a couple things that had gone differently, a couple different people picked for certain jobs, like not kids for everything, like the music and all the things. I don't feel like I watched it and I feel like I wasted my life. I feel like I watched it and I was just so baffled at the end of it that I would tell someone to watch it if I was like, do you want to feel like you're on mushrooms but you're not? Watch this
Right.
fucking movie. Chuck Connors, I mean, I thought he did a good job at being a fucking weird psychopath, but the fake bullshit stealing everybody else's fucking lines from every other good movie and putting it together in this didn't do shit for me. It has a cult following, but I'm not part of that cult.
So
Tell us.
I am more than comfortable giving this a flat 2 dented mannequin tits.
Yeah.
There's no diversity, there's no Bechdel tests to have been passed. Yeah, it's clearly through the lens of an incel. It's clearly just he thought he was doing a psychological thriller and he wasn't. He thought he was doing a slasher and he wasn't. He thought he was doing a whodunit and he wasn't. It's just, it should have stayed a senior project from film school.
I agree. I'm going to also give it a 2. It was bad. So this movie came out in what, 1979? So this clearly was a remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which had only come out 5 years prior. Carrie, which had only come out 3 years prior?
Yeah.
Psycho, which was 20 years prior. And then House of
10.
Wax, which the original was from the 50s. They didn't even take the greatest hits from those
Right.
movies. And they just kind of mashed them into a movie that didn't try that hard. I was excited to watch it because I've heard people talk about it and I've seen a lot of swag from this movie. People love to wear shirts from this movie, or there's a lot of figures for this movie floating around. But I don't get it.
The director originally wanted to basically make the music what John Carpenter made for Halloween.
Yeah.
He wanted synthesized. He wanted, creepy and simple. And what he got was like fucking Pee-wee's Playhouse.
No one should enjoy this movie.
No.
Stop
No.
it.
Fuck this fucking movie.
Make sure you're registered to vote.
Yes.
Make sure you're fucking
do it
registered to vote.
now and get your ballot early because I sent in for my ballot like weeks ago and I still haven't gotten it.
No, me
So
neither.
do that now. Be
Absolutely.
outspoken about voting and what to do.
Yep.
Love you.
Bye-bye.